Like, get cozy. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. So nice to see you. Welcome, Mashi. First time. CV also first time. We need like spotlights. Oh, to welcome everybody. Oh,
I'm gonna do Zoom.
you're gonna do Zoom. No, you know what? Nobody's here yet in Zoom, so it's okay. What? Is it dying?
Like 13%.
Yeah? Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Welcome.
What do I need to do? What 26? It's not saying mine. Come to charge phone.
Oh, yeah, I have to remind you, Sarah. Okay, welcome back, everybody. And welcome to some of the new people. But I know you're all caught up, so it's good. And everybody who's joining, we are up to Perek Vav. Okay, thank you. Oh. Okay, so we're back now. Text please, Tanya. How are we doing? Good? Yeah, how was the rest of your week? I'm like, I want to get to see you on Shabbos. And then like...
You should just know. No, I figured. I made a switch. So I was like, I really had to come to one night.
You switched your work schedule for this?
Whoa.
Shauna gets a prize.
Whoa, you get a prize.
Shauna gets a prize.
I mean, it works out in other ways.
That's amazing.
I told you I missed Friday afternoon.
Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay, so I'm very touched. Okay, but so is Tanya. He's very happy. Okay, so we'll get started. Perek Vav. We'll do also just like a very quick recap. Basically, we started off, we introduced in the beginning that we have two souls, right? We have an animal soul, we have a godly soul. We actually spent like 3 prakim talking about the Nefesh Elokis, about the godly soul, and tonight we're finally going to get to the other side, to the Sitra Achra. We're going to start talking about the Nefesh HaBahamis. So we spent like a nice amount of time. We spoke about that this neshama is, all I want to do is go back to Hashem. We explained that this neshama has 10 spheros, and they can be broken up into 2 groups. Here's where you earn the points, CV, let's go. This is where you get credit. The intellectual, the mothers, and the children, right? We have the 3 mothers, which is Chachma Bina Das is coming back, right? And then we have the 7 children, the 7 emotions, the 7 doubles, and we said, what do we explain about those 2? That
One goes into the other.
one is intellectual, the other ones are emotional, one feeds into the other. We also said that in order for that neshama to come alive in this world, it needs 3 garments, and they are
Thoughts, and then...
By the way, I do this with the chaba when I'm doing like sight words, and I'm like, and she's like, she looks at it, and she looks at me, and she's like, we? I'm like, no, there's no W in there. It's like, it's they. And she's like, right? And I'm like, okay, it's time for a reading specialist. But like, we're all trying to figure it out. So it was the 3 levushim, right? Hashem gave our Nefesh Elokis thought, speech, and action, and that's how it comes into this world. And then we spent a lot of time last week talking about food, the food for the soul, which is Torah. So we have the levushim are the mitzvos, and the food is the Torah, and that's how your neshama kind of like becomes like alive. Like you plug it in through those capacities, that's how it's able to come to this world. So now we are going to talk about the other side. And we stress this a lot, that we don't say like bad words in Tanya. I think altogether in Chabad Hasidus, right? Like I know the Rebbe was very not into using negative words, always using positivity bias. My first favorite book that I've ever read about the Rebbe, and it's like the best, shortest, easiest book. So good. Like he doesn't say the word deadline. He doesn't want to use, even like we were talking about this in I think Monday night, we were saying how like one of the terms that is very related, that we're pretty sure that the Rebbe made up or came up with, was special education. That he didn't want to say the other thing, like the other side of it, right? Like it used to be that we used to call kids MR, like that was the lingo, and now it's special education, and that's because it's always looking at the positive. So we never want to say the bad thing. I always say like in like Harry Potter. I feel like I've said this before to like other people, that like in Harry Potter we say he who shall not be named, right? That's why we talk about it. But in this parak we're going to talk about the other side, and that is your darker side. That's actually what it calls it here. So he says, so let's talk about, what do we know? First of all, before we get into it, what do we know about the animal soul?
We get it when we're born.
We get it when we're born. It's first, right? We did discuss it in the first parak, right? What else? It's in the blood, right? It's like infused in our blood, right? We spoke about like the The earth, wind, fire, right? And we said that that's our character traits, right? What else do we know about it? It has potential for possibly being even, right? Being flipped, right? We spoke about being flipped. We spoke about klipa, right? We like touched a drop on it. Right. Those are things that we have to flip. Okay, so let's talk about it. It refers to it here as the darker side, the animal side. So vihine, oh, was it recording? Okay, fine. Sorry, I always have these like fears that it's like not recording. Okay. Happens to be, I'm just going to take this one line and like talk it out a little bit because I love this concept and I hear it a lot and I feel like I always learn it. What does this mean? Now God has made one opposite the other. What is this idea of like zelu umazeh? That Hashem created everything with a balance. That if He created tremendous, tremendous good, then what's on the other side? Tremendous bad. Why is that? Hashem wants to punish us. Like, is that not a good thing? Like, why would Hashem do that?
You cannot see light these days. No, whatever.
It's almost like to form the contrast. Like you can't.
Foil.
What?
Foil.
The foil, right? Like the other side, so that in order for it to be balanced, if it was only good and always like everybody was altruistic and everybody was amazing, like it wouldn't. First of all, you wouldn't have it shine. You wouldn't see it in its purest form. You would just take it for granted. But then when you have evil on the other side, it kind of balances out. So everything in this world, Zelu Umazeh bara Elokim. That's how Hashem created the world.
Yin and yang.
What yin and yang. A lot of times we discuss this. I don't know if anybody ever listened to that share from Rabbi Yossi, like the ADHD prophets, where he talks about the power of the koach of nevuah and the koach of the koach hadimyon, right? The imaginative faculty, which is used for nevuah. The opposite, the flip side of that is avodah zarah. So there's always, whenever there's like tremendous good, there's always like the opposite. Like Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest Navi. Who was the greatest Navi for the Ummah Olam? Bilam, right? So Bilam was as great, could have been as great as Moshe had he used his kochos for the right thing. So Zelu Mazeh, this idea that Asa Elokim, that Hashem created everything and then He created its opposite, is a very powerful idea. So he says,
also like it's a hero.
It's exactly. It's to empower that free will. If we didn't have that, it wouldn't be Bechira. If the principal is always in the room, we would always be in our best behavior. But because she steps out and goes to the office, we talk in class, do spitballs. I don't know, that's what we used to do. Like little things, right? But if they were always there, we would never have the opportunity for Bechira. So because we want Bechira, Hashem sets negative and positive things into this world. And He like kind of puts it into this world to have like an equilibrium for us to feel it. And that's how Hashem created this world. Okay, so He says, just like our nefesh elokis was created with 10 spheros, guess what? The other side also has that. And what's the other side? How does it refer to it? It says miklipas noga. I feel like you reminded me last week, Elishava, how like about klipas noga. So we were going like through everything, and you're like klipas noga, and I'm like, yes, we're going to come back to that. No, it wasn't a mistake. Well, now I'm calling on you to discuss Klipas Noga. What is Klipas Noga? Sorry. Klipas Noga is like a see-through, shiny, right? That we were able to see. Like a nail, right? Like a grape. Look at this. We have all these. What? There should be a store called Klipas Noga, right? We said
A nail salon.
a nail salon. Somebody.
Yoga factory.
Right, I know. So this one comes from Sitra Achra. This one comes from the other side. So now let's try to understand a little bit more about this Nefesh HaBahamis. And this Nefesh HaBahamis, guess what? It's like we spent 3 prakim learning about the Nefesh Elokis. Now we actually only have 1 parak on the Nefesh HaBahamis. So then I was like, shoot, I feel bad for him. Like, why do we only spend 1 parak about it? But then if you start to realize the makeup of the Nefesh HaBahamis, and you're like, oh, it sounds very familiar. It also has 10 faculties, right? And it has 3 cognitive and 7 emotional. Oh, I remember this, but it's Sitra Achra. It's on the other side. So the way that he describes it actually is that this also, like it says in their blood, hamlubeshes bidam ha'adam. It's found in the blood of a person. It says it has 10 powers within the animal soul, and they are called klula me'eser ksirin, that they're called kesers. They're called crowns. I don't know if you remember, I obviously didn't remember, and I had to do a little chazara, but on the first time around, when we spoke about the Nefesh Elokis, we said it has 10 spheros, okay? 10 emanations. And in here, when it talks about the animal soul, it says it has 10 ksarim, it has 10 crowns. What's different between a crown and a sphera? Well, sphera I can't really interpret, so I don't even know. It just means like an emanation. But a crown is what?
Has points.
It has points. It's on your head. And like low key, like Rabbi Sheistau was saying that when it comes to the Nefesh HaBahamis, everybody wants to be the queen. Like I think about it in high school, like all the time, like who's the queen bee? Like who's the right in charge? Everybody's always trying to get to the top. So when it comes to the Nefesh HaBahamis, it's not in harmony. It's not at peace. It's not like, oh, Chesed goes here and Gevurah goes here and Tiferes is here. Every single one of them is trying to get to the top. So the way that it refers to these 10 kohos in the animal soul is with a keser, with a crown, where everyone's just climbing to get to the top. I always think about that, the mashal, not the mashal, it's actually the story of like two kings can't wear one crown, right? That's why Hashem told the moon to make itself smaller, because the moon was like, oh, we can't both have a crown. But what's amazing is that we know that when Mashiach comes, the moon and the sun are going to be the same size and have the same power. I'm always like so confused by that. I'm like, okay, I know there's a lot of things that are going to happen by Mashiach that are going to be confusing, but like this one, like especially feels like it's a lot. So what does it mean that it's going to be the same? It means that they're going to be in harmony and they're going to be able to make space for each other. Just like your Nefesh Elokis is in harmony, that they're all spheros and they're all the same and they're all equal. The crowns of the animal soul are always the parts of the animal soul are always trying to fight and climb to the top. So they refer to them as crowns because it's like, oh, who's the king? Who's going to wear the crown? Okay, so then it continues and says, Shehem misheva midos raos habaos me arba yisodos ra'im. These powers of the animal soul, they come from the seven negative emotional powers emanating from the 4 negative elements. So we were talking about the elements, and here what the way that it describes in the animal soul is a flip. It says it's made out of 7 emotional and 3 intellectual. How do we describe the Nefesh Elokis? The opposite. We say the 3 intellectual, we say the 3 mothers, and then the 7 children. Here, the way it refers to it says it goes up with the emotions, and it's hinting to us like what this animal soul is. It's starting by saying it's emotional. It's the negative emotions. It's the flip side, but it starts at the bottom. So it's talking about the emotions first, and then the intellect.
So when Nefesh Elokis is,
yeah, what we say?
When the Nefesh Elokis is really to tap into that, we always said that you have to meditate on it. It comes from your thoughts before your emotions. So
right.
You're saying it's the opposite. That
So
emotions
the emotions are thriving,
If
right?
wrong, you do it like it's an emotional instinct.
Right.
It's not a.
Like when you
And
yell
then
at someone or
right, it's an
whatever, it's
emotion.
coming out of.
When it comes from your emotions
It's
first.
not emotions, they're not controlled by mind.
There you go. They're the exact same emotions, they're just not controlled by your mind. So let's like try to imagine like a little kid, right? A little kid who's typically emotional, right? Why are they emotional first? Because their intellect is not fully developed, their Nefesh Elokis didn't fully come down, right? So it starts off over here in their emotions. So it refers to the Nefesh HaBahamis, the way that it describes it, when it starts to give its like bio, right? Like Lincoln bio. Its bio is it's made up of 7 emotions and then 3 intellect. So it's definitely coming from another side. It's the other side, it's Sitra Achra. What we know about the animal soul is, 1, it comes first. Remember we said that it has a possibility to be higher. It's the first thing that fell. Remember we gave that mashal of like a brick wall, and the ones that come from the top come later. The ones on the bottom are first. The Nefesh HaBahamis is rooted in our emotions, but that doesn't mean that the intellect is not on top. The intellect is still on top with the Nefesh HaBahamis. But the problem is that sometimes we bypass our intellect and we only use our emotions. And when we start with our emotions, what we end up doing is when we make decisions based on emotions, we end up rationalizing and going upstairs and telling our brain, I think it'll make sense if you do this and this and this because you acted out of emotion. And that's how you rationalize. That's the idea of rationalizing, is when you start off with your emotions. So bottom line, when we make decisions, we really have to start with our intellect because otherwise it comes from the Sitra Achra, it comes from the other side, and it's not necessarily healthy. Okay? You understand that? It has the cognitive capacities, but it doesn't start there. It goes there after and says, okay, how do I make sense of this, right? Do you ever make...
Larry Jacobson said today in the share, he said, you have to be really smart to be as stupid as the kids on college campus right now.
Right. Somebody's locked out. Oops. You have to, wait, say it again. You have to be really...
You have to be really smart. You have to have really smart capabilities to be that stupid.
That's very funny.
Because otherwise,
True.
Right. Like it really almost
they
makes no
they
sense.
rationalize and they convince themselves.
They convince themselves.
Rationalizes ration.
Or ration, right? What does he say? Ration all the lies. That like, and it's a great bit because I want to go up there and I have all these lies that are going on. Oh, hi. Better late than ever. Don't worry. We literally just started. Don't worry. Okay, so it goes to rationalize. So it starts out over here in your emotion, then it goes up into your head, and it's like, okay, how do we figure this out? I made this decision, and it was a very quick one, but I wanna make it work, and then you end up lying, and then you end up going into your intellect, and it's not necessarily
It's
healthy.
also like the cheshbon and nefesh you do after you did the thing already.
Ooh.
So it's like going through, like it's the right logical pieces, working, but it's after.
But it's after. It's
Right.
right. And that doesn't mean that you can't do tshuva after. Like, don't be disheartened if you make decisions with your animal soul, because a lot of times we do. And by the way, kids almost always do, right? And everything for them is about their emotions. It's very, very emotional. You see a kid kicking on the floor, screaming on the floor. Why are they screaming? Because, like, I wanted to wear a short sleeve dress, but like, hi, it's 40 degrees. We can't wear it, but like, I want that, right? So it's like this kicking and screaming thing.
What happens when your mind knows something, but your body feels different, your emotions feel different?
So then that's what we're going to eventually get to that, but that's what we spoke about all the meditation, is that everything really has to happen here and then flow down into here. But with the sitra, the other side, the animal soul, it comes up, it starts over here. So that's why also, by the way, we refer to them as negative emotions. We didn't refer to the nefesh elokis as negative. We just said those are your emotions. Here we're saying they're negative emotions. So what does he say? He says, V'seichel hamolidin hanech. I feel so bad. Am I allowed to tell Bina I'd like to be quiet? Are they downstairs? I don't even know where they are. I don't know. Sorry, you're usually my Mora. I know. You could be the Mina. It's fine. Loma could do it because Evie's here. No, I feel bad. I took away her iPad. That's probably why, but that's what happens, Okay. So he says like this. In the godly soul, the emotions are always guided by the intellect. But now that we're trying to rationalize it with the animal soul, let's try to understand a little bit more about the animal soul. So the way that it works with a kid, okay, so the kids are, and I love that he says this, like, I love that he says this. He says, Ki amidos hein lefi erech haseichel, because the emotions are relative to your intellect. Ki hakatan, like a little kid, choshek va'ohev dvarim ketanim psuchei ha'arech. Little kids, they get very, like, they have these, like, little desires. I don't know if you ever have this, like, a kid who has, like, walking around with, like, one little toy that they always have. Or the example that Chase Howe gave was, like, when you're cutting up birthday cake. And this is, like, just incredible. So I'm going to use this mashal of, like, when you're cutting birthday cake, right? All the kids are lining up with their plates and their fork, right? And they're ready to get the cake. And it's like, I want the flower. I want the flower. I want yellow. And if, like, you don't get the yellow one, then you're like, and they by mistake gave you the pink one. And then, like, I always, like, does anybody want the leaf? And the kids are like, no, I don't want the leaf. Like, give me a full flower, right? And if they don't get what they want, their mom is like sitting on the floor and they're kicking and screaming because everything for them is about trivial little things. Now, according to their capacity, their understanding, they value little things. Right? As you get more mature, you value big things. So just imagine that your nefesh elokis your nefesh Bahamas is a slightly immature kid that only likes pink flowers, and don't mess with me if I give you like a leaf because I'm not going to talk to you. But that's just because when you're immature, when your emotions are immature, your intellect also it's not fully developed. So here you get very angry, you get very annoyed by trivial little things, and then it's almost like literally like experience like a tragedy. Like, I don't know if anybody had this, like, don't mess up with kids when they serve cake, right? Their mind isn't mature enough to be able to grasp the bigger strategy here. Like, no, I have to cut the cake this certain way. Right now I'm like all into rectangle cakes, like what we have in Mavakshe. Like, there's round cakes are just like too complicated. You know what I mean? Like, rectangle cakes, Costco sheet cake is perfect. Nobody's. She has a method of cutting it because we can't cut the words, we can't cut the letters, right? Like, this is my mother's favorite story. Like, somebody went to the store and they said, can you write Happy Birthday David on a board? Because, like, you can't cut it. And then they actually wrote on the cake, Happy Birthday David on a board. Like, on the cake, yeah. So that's my mom's, like, favorite story. But the point is that we're... What?
I like have like really good vision that, like the person seeing it.
I know. It's like when I made 12 potato kugels for Pesach and I asked Yal I gave her a stack of labels. I'm like, here, could you just label, I need 12 potato kugels. Can you write that? And then she wrote, I need 12 potato kugels. No, she wrote on the sticker 12 potato kugels. And as she was writing, I'm laughing and she's like, did I spell potato wrong? And I'm like, no. Like, right? right on it, right.
Right. Stay trusted.
So, but that's their capability. So let's talk. So for 1 second, when we talk about the case, the point is that we're trying to really learn about our animal soul. We want to know because, bottom line, the animal soul is very, very necessary. Like your godly soul is nothing without your animal soul. So even though we're like putting it down and we're saying maybe it's a little immature, whatever, it's not. It's there, and we have to figure out how to utilize it. We shouldn't be scared of it, and we should know that it's slightly more emotional. It leads with emotions, and then it doesn't have necessarily the intellect or. It's not starting off in the intellect, so it maybe seems a little bit weaker. But bottom line is we need to know about it because we want to focus on the inner makeup of it because it's part of us. So it happens to be in here. So we're laughing and we're joking about it and we're talking about flowers and cakes. But really, it's a big part of us. It's here first. It showed up first. We have to know how to tap into it. So the animal soul is made up of those same 10 faculties. 3 cognitive, 7 emotional, and it's the same thing. It's a relationship with the parents and children. But in this example, the kids are running the home. The parents went out, they come back, the house is a mess, everybody's eating ice cream, there's cookies on the floor, soda, which we say for Shabbos, but who cares, it's during the week, it's just because that's what I feel. So when you're leading with your emotions, you're not. The animal soul is just not receptive yet to this abstract thought. We talk a lot about abstract thought in Tanya, we talk a lot about this idea of like thinking about bigger things. When you're a katan, you can't think abstract things. When you're smaller, in the animal soul, it cannot grasp the abstract concepts that our Nefesh Elokis does. Our Nefesh Elokis is so big. It's like dreaming of Hashem all day. Our Nefesh Bahamis can't grasp that. It doesn't understand spiritual ideas. It doesn't understand philosophical concepts and big, deep thoughts in Hashem. So it relates to the very concrete, the very here, the very now. What you see is what you get. Very much like children, right? Or adults that just never grew up. The people that see things very, very concretely and very physically is where the animal soul comes from. So it relates to emotions because of that. It draws to emotions because emotions are a little bit more concrete. I could see it. Intellect, you don't always see. But emotions, someone's having a nervous breakdown, right? Or someone's like very happy, or someone's having a tantrum. It is a little bit more visible. It's a little bit more concrete. So it's very important for us to understand this so that we know, okay, this is part of us. I want to operate it. I want to make it work, okay? It's almost like it's our gas tank. It's filling up. It's our fuel in order for us to get going. Remember when we spoke about the parts of the elements that are in our body? We were saying how they were all like negative, but they could all be flipped, right? Like anger and lust and frivolity and whatever, all of that stuff, all of it could be flipped. So now these 10 faculties, when a person thinks about them or speaks about them, how do we tap into those things? What are the 3 levushim? Thought, speech, and action. The animal soul, bless you, has the same thought, speech, and action. But what does thought, speech, and action look like in the animal soul? Let's do Chazara for 1 second. What does thought, speech, and action look like in our Nefesh Elokis? Torah, mitzvos, tefillah, right? Thought, speech, and action. Actually, Torah is more food, but thought, speech, and action of the animal soul, of the godly soul, is mitzvos. All it wants to do is like think about Hashem, talk to Hashem, daven about Hashem, give tzedakah, all those things. What do the levushim look like in the animal soul? Averos, right? Parties. Lashon hara. Me, right? Like all about me, very egotistical, just me, right?
It's like Marvelous Migos machine, just like
Just the other side.
But like, not that like devilish. Those are just like lacking attention. I'm like,
I love that you said it. It doesn't have to be so scary. It doesn't have to be like the scariest thing in the entire world. It doesn't have to be murder.
Misguided values.
It's misguided values.
Focused on
Focused on the
the tablecloth over
tablecloth and not the actual Shabbos food, but like tablecloth. I like tablecloths, right? But we'll get to that. Leave us know about, right? Okay.
No, but like having those free samples.
Right. So it's pleasure-seeking behaviors for itself, right? Like for its ego, right? It's not necessarily thinking about a higher power or anything abstract. It's thinking about right here, right now, what we're thinking about, what we are. So these garments of the godly soul are good, and the garments of the animal soul are not so good. They're not like trafe, they're not like horrific, but they're just from the other side. So he says, what type of actions, so the way that it refers to it, hold on 1 second, I want to find it inside. He says that, and I love this line, shoots. Now we can't find it. Where he talks about everything that's tachas hashamash, like everything that's under the sun. I feel like there's a song with that. Ein Chadash, right? Okay, fine. Hold on 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Hold on. About what? Okay, fine. Okay, I can't find it, but I wrote it over here. Okay, so he's saying that all the actions that are done under the sun, everything that can be done tachas hashamesh. When we talk about something that's tachas hashamesh, that means that everything that's mundane, that not necessarily spiritual, right? If everything from the sun down over here in this physical world, that emanates here in this physical world, is mundane and is secular and is regular, 6 days of the week, not necessarily connected to Shabbos. And when you do things that are not for the sake of Hashem, not for the sake of heaven, it just becomes just about you. So the animal soul just feeds itself. It's like self-fulfilling prophecy. It just wants to take care of itself on all these levels of thought, speech, and action. And what the Zohar brings down, that it's all coming from the brokenness of its spirit. It's very broken. It doesn't say it's like bad or it's evil. It says it's broken. And I like that word better because broken is like a little bit like, I don't know, sometimes you could think like maybe another word for it is like dysfunction, or it's like not working properly, right? When things are not working properly and we're not connecting it back to Hashem, that's where the Nefesh HaBahamis loves it, right? Think about a broken, when I say brokenness, right? When the parents are not home, what's happening in the house? It's a little dysfunctional, right? Like I'll ask my kid, I'm like, oh, how come you don't go to this house? It's very hectic, right? Like hectic is like this is like the kid's favorite word. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a nice way of saying it's dysfunctional, right? What does that mean, dysfunctional? It means that it's not connected to a higher source. It's not necessarily connected to your Nefesh Elokis, to Hashem. It's not relating it. All it's doing is taking care of one himself. So what he's saying here is that it's not necessarily just Averos, like Chava was saying. It's like, yeah, they can be bad. The thought, speech, and action could be bad. But it could also just be like broken or disconnected from Hashem. That's really what Sitra Achra means. Sitra Achra means the other side. It means I'm not bringing it to Hashem. So it's the other side of holiness. In order for us to...
Someone could look like the biggest salad, and it could be feeding their Nefesh HaBahamis.
Right.
Because of the cover that they get, because of they feel like they're accomplishing intellectually, whatever it is. It could be 100%.
But it's not.
If it's not connected to then it's feeding their Nefesh HaBahamis.
Right. So I remember getting to like a very deep discussion the first time around when it came to Tanya, and we were talking about how everything can be used for Hashem, and if it's not, then it becomes the other side, Sitra Achra. It's very, very important to us for us to understand that there has to be a middle, but no middle. Everything has to be connected back to Hashem. Everything has to be brought back to Hashem. Even on the simplest level, like, okay, sometimes when I come home from work, like either I have a lot of kayach and I like go for a run, or I'm like so depleted that I take a nap. But either way, whatever I do is like, okay, yesterday I knew it was going to be a long night, but we had this like adoptive survivor and I wanted to go to Rabbi Yossi's shir after whatever. So when I came home, I'm like, I'm going to take a nap. And I said to myself, I am taking a nap so that I can be able to learn Torah a little bit later. Done. If I'm taking a nap because like, oh my gosh, I had the hardest day, I'm out. Sitra Achra. That's me just feeding my animal soul who's very tired and didn't get enough sleep the night before because I was scrolling on Instagram and whatever it was, but it was just about me. But the second I said that, I was like, okay. And it was like my most peaceful nap. It was like 20 minutes.
You want to be a good mommy.
You can also be you want to be a good mommy. Yeah. It doesn't always have to.
Go to share. You can just
right. No, I actually did want to be a good mommy and go to the adoptive survivor thing, but like when I came in there, I was like, how many mothers came? Like, you know, the type, like, I'm like, does everyone just like send their like, you know, their kid or their husband? I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to go. I'm going to be there. So every single thing that you do has to be connected to Hashem. Otherwise, it immediately becomes Sitra Achra. So it's very easy for this animal soul to get sucked into something much worse and do more Averos because all it wants to do is take care of itself. We have to constantly be on top of it and be like, no, flip it. No, this is for good. This can be used for good. And when it's not aligned with Hashem's will, that's where the dysfunction happens. As soon as you're not connecting to Hashem, it starts to break down. So like Mary was saying, like a lot of times we do things like, and it's for ourselves. Like I always say, like, I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to go back to school because like I want to earn another degree. But like, am I continuing my education for myself for like a little bit more letters before my name or a little bit letters after my name? Like, what's this about? Like, is it about making more money? Is it about more kavod, more honor? Or is it because this is where Hashem wants me to be? Or even if when I'm doing something, I can quickly align it to Hashem, and if not, it automatically becomes Sitra Achra.
I don't recognize every little thing. I can say, okay, I need some cake, eating cake. I don't need the cake, but don't. So I like to go on vacation. I can go around the block. I can go to Hawaii. So I'll wear Shani's.
Right.
You have to check.
This is where I remember we got into. I remember like Aliza Klein was here, and she's like, "Okay, so like, how much can you say that this is for Hashem, this is for Hashem, this table's for Hashem, this house is for Hashem, this food is for Hashem?"
Your whole attitude changes.
Right.
Because let's say you say you want to go on vacation, whatever, and then all of a sudden you make it a reason why all of a sudden the whole attitude is different.
Right. It really,
There is a checks and balances because let's say you take the vacation and actually we're on vacation today. So let's say you say that you want to go on vacation. In order to function better, you need to go on vacation. But you're still upset. You're still angry. You're still overall frustrated. When you're on vacation or after vacation, the vacation wasn't it wasn't fulfilling its purpose. So then you rationalize wrong, basically.
Right,
like there's a certain point where you're gonna start to feel like, okay, how much can I stretch this, but also be balanced here in this world? Like I think that thank you Hashem, we're all pretty healthy and we can know when you're like, that sounds like a bit too much. But certain things are very even while you're doing it, even mundane, regular things can be aligned with Hashem's will.
Right, but let's say I have to daven, or I have to say Natan, or I have to say, instead of I have to, I want to, it changes it. So let's say not a spiritual thing. Let's say I have to.
But are you aligned or something?
Huh?
What?
No.
I'm saying
No, so
maybe if we're not at that level, but maybe if we're not at that level of saying I want to versus you were saying, I feel like the big point here is that
I have to. I don't say I have to.
The big point that I learned from Tanya is that you need to do all these things. You just need to do them. It's not it's the less fluffy way of getting to a point where we're always doing it with the best attitude and always
right. It's much more of an intellectual approach of saying I'm going to take this thing that I'm doing and I'm going to align it with Hashem's will. When I align it with Hashem's will, then it flows properly. When it doesn't, it becomes just about myself.
After sometimes, the good feeling of oh, this made me feel good. Oh, I feel good because I'm connected, or I'm feeling fulfilled, or I'm feeling all of that. Sometimes comes after pushing yourself to do the things that maybe you're not so inclined to do, or you're
I guess
not.
I'm not talking about the things we have to do. I'm talking about the extras and.
So let's not talk extras. Let's talk about this animal soul. All it wants to do is feed itself, take care of itself, do whatever's good for itself. When it comes to kavod, when it comes to food, when it comes to pleasures, anything, all of those things wants to do for itself. That's why it's considered your darker side, because all it wants to do is take care of itself. What we have to realize is that your nefesh elokis is the opposite. It's all the way only to Hashem. You have the potential to flip the sitra achra to the other side, to align it with Hashem, when you say this mundane activity is about Hashem.
That's what we say with Kavod Shabbos.
L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh. Yes, you go to the store, take a shower, L'kavod Shabbos, food, L'Shabbos Kodesh.
Right?
Keep saying it. Obviously, listen, if it doesn't work out in your bank account to buy certain things, at a certain point you're going to have to say no.
If I go to manicure and all of a sudden I'm let's get a manicure for Shabbos.
Yeah.
So much fun.
That's what flips it. 100%. You align with Hashem's will, it flips it. What's that called? When you are able to find Hashem within it, even though it doesn't look like Hashem. What's that called? What's that klipa? What kind of klipa is it? Klipas? Noga, right? As opposed to other klipos. Yes, there we go. This time we got it right. The noga, the nail noga factory. Okay. So klipas noga, we really learned about klipas noga at the end of chapter 1, and that's the neutral klipa where you can see the spark of Hashem inside of it. However, what we're going to learn now is that there's another type of klipa that's irredeemable, and we can't even go there. And what are those?
Non-kosher.
The non-kosher.
The averos that we don't even.
You're not supposed to open.
You're not supposed to open. Don't go there. So in this paragraph, there's two types of klipas. There's klipas noga, which is see-through, and you're like, oh, I can redeem that. I can pull that out. That is the meat now, which is sometimes just to stuff my face, is now flipped, and I'm now able to find the good in it, and now I can use it for Shabbos. Okay. Now there's regular klipas, which are irredeemable klipas, which we don't go, and those are all the Averos and all the things that Hashem tells us, this you can't do, you're not allowed to marry this person, you're not allowed to steal. Yeah, all the low sassies, but even like not kosher, like don't go there. I'm not going to explain to you why we can't eat shellfish. I'm just telling you that even, it happens to be, it's very thick klipa shellfish and a lobster, whatever, but don't go there because I'm telling you that right now is not for you to redeem. There's nothing that you're going to be able to pull out there. Spend your entire life doing avodas habirurim, sifting through everything that you see here and find the shiny klipa and redeem that one.
Oh my gosh, I just thought like they actually have a thick. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know. I just made that up, but
And
maybe it's
pork
real.
also has
I
a
feel
very
like,
thick
right?
layer of like fat.
Clam, right?
And like chicken does.
We've said this before, right? It has a hard shell, right? So those are not redeemable. Those we can't go, right? Yeah.
No, I'm thinking like pork and
They all have
shellfish
thick
all have
layers.
very thick
Thick.
Fat,
layers.
shells.
Yes, shells, right.
Pork.
Right. Okay. So now, okay. So the way that he explains it is these words. He uses the word kedusha, right? Okay. Kedusha. What's the word like kedusha? Kadosh. What does kadosh mean? Separate. Right. Sometimes we say holy. I'm so happy nobody even said it. Like we say like kadosh. Something is holy. Holy. Sacred. Also set apart. You ever heard that concept that like kadosh, right? Kadosh set apart. When you either, so basically when we're looking at this animal soul and we're looking at this Nefesh, we're saying either it's kadosh or it's not. It's kadosh where I can align it to Hashem, or it's not. It's one or the other. And that's why the animal soul needs constant working and like soothing. You ever see like when you're working with kids, like they need a lot of like reminders and prompts and everything. That's kind of how our animal soul is. It's that little temper tantrum kid who's there, who constantly needs, tasks broken down, skills broken down. Everything has to be made a little bit simpler because they don't necessarily know what's kadosh and what's not. So they need a little help with that. But now we can know that we have to elevate it. So these two categories of holy and not holy, within the not holy, actually, he says there are levels, and the not holy is the two levels of the not holy are klipas noga, which are the see-through redeemable klipas, and the irredeemable klipas that you can't. Talks a little bit about kedusha. Kedusha means like designation. Like I designate this, and I'm going to use this. Like kedusha, right? When we get married, what's the terminology that we use? We say that you are now mekudesh. I now this person. Yeah, what? Designated, right? Or I'm designated for it. So sometimes we can say like, oh, okay, so that's a wine, right? What's wine designated for? Kiddush, right? Or let's say making a mitzvah on it, right? I can use that for a mitzvah. Once I designate, once I pull that aside and say this is for something good, now I've now chosen that for it to be good. But the second you use that wine for something else, it's no longer designated for it, right? Let's say like right now, I don't know if I should be doing this, but like this is a sefer and I'm using it now really for my phone, and that's like ventures, and that's also like not dead. I'm like looking, I'm like, this is not holy. Like it's not, because ventures,
You're using it to learn Tanya.
I'm using it to learn Tanya, but like it's not like a regular secular book. A regular secular book, like my kids, whenever we're just like not good with like homework desks, we just don't have that yet. But when we get there, until then, my kids are like doing their homework on the floor on a rug, right? And they're like, oh, it's so annoying. So I go to their closet, I take it a library book. I'm like, here, use this book and you can write on it. And they're like, oh, amazing. So they're writing on the book. That book, Amelia Bedelia, is not designated for anything holy. Would I do the same thing with Chumash or a Navi or a Tanya? No, you cannot get right in. Like, I have one kid who's like, always like, no, don't put anything on tables. Just sit her there, kiss it. Always like constantly like kissing Siddur. And like, do anybody have a kid like that? Yeah. The one who's like always kissing like Svarim, like, you can't put that on the table, it's safer. Or even like reorganizing the Svarim, like in the order, rearranging them. Like, I'm like, which one goes first? Like the Gemara, the Chumash, the Siddur, I don't know the order for it. But that Chumash or that, this, what? Tanakh, is that the order? I don't know. I don't even know if there's an order. I just made it up. There is, yeah? Could be there is. Chumash always goes on top. I'm learning so much. So that Amelia Bedelia book is not designated for anything. Yeah, it might have to be returned to the library, but now I could do homework on it. So when something becomes holy, when you say it's holy, what does that mean? What does something mean that it's kadosh? It means it's designated for its purpose. I'm going to use it for that. Okay? Now, how do you categorize speech as holy, and your actions as holy, and your thoughts as holy? How do you make those things designated for something that's holy? Always connecting it back to Hashem. So saying my speech, right? My speech, I'm going to use it for learning Torah, for praising somebody, for speaking good, right? That's how you designate all those thoughts, speech, and action. Shmir Seinayin, Shmir Saloshon, right? I am now using all those parts of the good. The second, because Hashem said, and by the way, this is what mitzvos are. Hashem is telling us, and this is so cool, because like, what is the Torah? The Torah is all these mitzvahs, 613. Hashem's telling us exactly what to do. Hashem is telling us how to stay kadosh, how to stay holy. I'm designating certain things for you, and you are going to use those things and those only at that specific time. I think about it a lot when it comes to if you think about it, like as you go through the Torah, every single detail, every single mitzvah, Hashem's basically telling us, this is what you do with this, and this is what you do with this. And when somebody owes you money, this is what you do. And when you did some damages to somebody, this is what you do. Hashem is telling us exactly how to spend our money, by the way, even. Like he says, this is the amount of money for tzedakah. Don't give more, don't give whatever. Maybe you give less. I don't know. No, not give less. Just don't give more. You could give more, only up to a certain amount, right? But like Hashem tells us exactly, in fine-tuned detail, exactly what to do and how to designate things and how to elevate your thought, speech, and action. And at the minute that you don't, and you align it just with your own self, ego, and whatever you want to do, you are now making it unholy. So unholy speech is not connecting back to Hashem. It's not using your speech with the right thing. Unholy thoughts, unholy actions, right? Like maybe it will come down to like serious averos, but you always want to curb it. So like we say this, when we're drinking water, Hashem says, make a bracha on it before. Hashem says, elevate the food. Take everything that you're doing and elevate it. Make it one step holier. Designate it for something that's right. So now that we can grasp the idea between Kedusha and the opposite, which is Klipa, anything that's not done for Kedusha becomes a Klipa. And then Klipas, I don't know, do they grow? Like, do they get bigger? Like, if you don't, they're blockages, right? So it's like, they what? You create layers, right? It's layers, right? Ogres, they're like onions. They have layers. For my Shrek fans, I know, it's so bad. I always, every time I say that. But really, it's layers and layers of klipas build up when you're not assigning it or aligning it with Kedusha. So the opposite of Kedusha becomes klipa. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, fine.
Faigy, the Rav is saying how when you do an Avera, I just asked Mary, like, what's the root word? Avera, like Avera, so she was talking about bones. So when you do an Avera, you break apart, like you're broken.
Really?
And then when you do a mitzvah, it's put back together. So then he was like saying how like there's when you have a klipa, you take it away, like you're like
The word for bones is also mitzvah.
right. So
There's another word
it like
for bones.
it basically when you do mitzvah, when you do an Avera, you break
You're
yourself
breaking
apart.
bones. You shatter, right?
Your bones are taken apart, and then and sometimes you need to break yourself apart in order to
Rebuilding it.
rebuild yourself even higher and greater, which is Sidracha and flipping it and
Whoa.
mentioning that.
Right.
There's another word for bones that's atzamus,
And
and
that's what he said.
atzmus.
Oh,
That's atzamus, and that's that also signifies like the.
This is like the cutest little Tanya group over there with those girls. Okay, fine. So basically what we're learning now is that there's two sides. There's Nefesh Elokis, and that's aligned with Kedusha. There's Nefesh HaBahamis, and that's aligned with Klipa. Nefesh Elokis only wants to connect back to Hashem. Nefesh HaBahamis is like, feed me, I just want to party and drink wine and not make Kiddush on it. Okay. Kedusha is really what allows Hashem to dwell. When you make something Kadosh, right? Think about Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? Where does Hashem dwell? Where does Hashem rest? In a Kadosh place, in a place that's designated for Him. So what's Kedusha? Kedusha brings Hashem in. Kedusha, though, really has to, in order for Kedusha to happen, there has to be what's called bittul. What's bittul? And this is like very, very important. And we say this word a lot in our house. What's bittul? We literally have like a teen version of like, yeah. Oh, sorry. We have like teen edition over here. What? Wait. Bittul is like wait. Like bittul is like.
Like to bring down, no?
Should we do a Shei's Taubism? He said bittul is be the tool. So that's like when you carve yourself out to make space for Hashem. So Hashem says, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna dwell. Right? I'm gonna dwell. Right? I'm gonna come. But in order
For like null?
nullify.
I feel
It's like
negative.
nullified, like
Yeah, it's like to nullify yourself.
Bittul means right. It can be negative. It can be seen as negative.
Oh,
when
this is
it's-
the positive bittul?
This is the positive bittul. The positive bittul is making a space for Hashem to carve out. So I always say like it's like a vessel that's emptied out in order for kedusha to come down.
Yeah.
Right, bittul. Right. Oh yes, bittul can be seen as a waste of time. Like you're wasting your time. Right. Bittul Torah.
Yeah,
Right.
bittul Torah, bittul.
She means the chabad bittul.
The Chabad bittul. The positive bittul.
Nullify your sin.
I know I'm laughing so hard because the first time I actually heard bittul's like bittul Torah, right? It goes along with like Gezei Lashena, like Gezei Lashena, bittul Torah, like all the rest
heard
of
the
it.
word in a positive
I don't
manner.
think I've ever
Well, Chasidus is right, I know. So bittul can be seen in the positive form, according to Tanya. I know. It took me a minute, by the way, Ajahn, to realize what you were talking about. Now I'm like, I know what it is. Anytime we thought we were wasting Torah, it was bittul Torah. No. But bittul, in a positive way, is nullifying yourself and saying it's not about me. The nefesh making space. The nefesh Bahamas is like me. It's egotistical, right? It's etching God out, ego, right? And now we're learning that this nefesh Bahamas needs to be broken a little bit for kedusha to come in. So in order for Hashem to come and reside within you and in everything, and in your thought, and your speech, and your action, and in your food, Hashem wants to come, but you need to make yourself a vessel to be able to catch Hashem. So it's like bittul has to be done to the nefesh Elokis, the nefesh Bahamas. Nefesh Bahamas
I don't
needs.
remember exactly, but it's Fierce Omer now, and during these days, there's the carbon emor, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another carbon with the I
The
forgot.
carbon tummy?
No, the other with the
Not so-
two with
not so
the
good.
bread, or something. I
The-
forgot what left.
I know
You
you're
know what I'm
talking
talking
about,
about?
like, people don't eat it, like,
Yeah,
that type of flour.
Right. Yes. Exactly that one. Anyway,
So
so the
confused
point
by
is that the carbon emor that's with the animal,
Uh-huh.
and this one is with bread. So it's that comparison of behema.
Almost like
the
on
animalistic
duty
side,
tonight.
it's the animalistic carbon and the spiritual carbon.
Right.
And so I just heard today from Rabbi Danishevsky, he was saying that you take, during Spheres Omer, we're taking our animalistic side and we're cultivating it. We're doing mitzvos, we're doing Bein Adam L'Chavero, we're building on our midos, and we're learning Pirkei Avos and all that stuff, and we're building ourselves up to this other carbon, which is the spiritual one, and like this.
So, by the way, if you
Hashem.
think about it, when
And
it
we're-
comes
one more thing he said is that we're
Right.
preparing ourselves to accept the Torah, which is like
Kabbalah Torah, in
Right,
order to be able to
exactly.
get it, we have to carve ourselves out. Having see, it's nice that you say
An
this.
external thing.
Yeah.
Like internal bittul is good. External bittul
Is
bad,
not.
with
Ex-
action.
Right. Extra bittul
I got it,
wasting
got it.
time is not a good thing. Bittul of carving yourself out is a good thing. So in order for kedusha, so we want to get closer to kedusha because kedusha was more aligned with Hashem. Hashem says, "I will come rest in you if you surrender." Another word for bittul, let's say, would be surrender. Right? Surrendering everything to Hashem. The more we give up everything for Hashem, the more we say this water is for Hashem, this nap is for Hashem, this food is for Hashem, these children are for Hashem, everything is for Hashem, the more we surrender, the more we're able to align. So we have to push aside our ego to be able to make room for Hashem. And that's the same thing with our thought, speech, and actions. When it's self-oriented and not God-oriented, Hashem's like, I don't care, I'm not coming. Your speech is gossip, I'm not going to be there. If your speech is Torah, I'll come. If you make room for me, I'll come. But if you're not, if you're just talking about other people, that's not where I want to be. So holiness is really what allows Hashem to come in. Why are we so like obsessed with being kadosh, with being holy? Can't be tummy, you have to be holy, can't be tummy, right? Like going to the mikvah, right? Like before they went up to the Beis HaMikdash, everything is about being holy. Why? Because if you think about it, in actuality, Hashem's like, I will come when you surrender for me, when you make space for me. When we say, Kochi v'etzem yadi, I don't need you, Hashem, doesn't need to be part of it, this is not, I don't need to make space for you. That's a world where you think you're self-sufficient, you think you have everything under control, and that's not necessarily where Hashem wants to come. Paro, by the way, is the biggest example. He was so self-sufficient. He's like, I got this whole country, I have storehouses, I have food, I don't need anything, I have slaves working for me. And that's the most unholy place, right? Like, we talk about Mitzrayim, and Mitzrayim was like, I forgot the word, but like, it was like the
49.
yeah, what was it? It was,
Not 49.
it was a Korabauza, but it was like, it was the lowest place, right? It was the lowest place in the entire world.
Yeah,
It
you
was,
got it right.
what'd you say?
Oh, I I said 49 level of Tumah.
Yeah, it was the lowest level of Tumah. There was absolutely no holiness. Nothing was oriented to Hashem. Nothing was coming back there. Hashem's like, I'm out of here. I don't need to be here. And by the way, Egypt is one of those countries that there are no sparks left of Hashem. You do not need to go back there. Other countries, you have to collect sparks. In Egypt, you don't. It was the lowest place.
Like that's what we have a premise that not to go back.
Not to go back, right? We don't
It's
go
a
back.
real thing, like people,
Yeah.
So, not that I was ever
Not like
considering.
not to go
but-
Not to not to live there. Do you know any Indian living in Egypt? No. Right.
Is there a there's no
The
Chabad?
Rambam was
There's
there
no-
for a little bit.
There's no
right.
Chabad in Egypt?
Not that I
Whoa, we have to look into this, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, let's find out. Okay, so what we're saying here is that. Okay, I have to find this inside. This is where I really need to highlight. Yeah, it's not good. Okay.
I would like to confirm that first.
I am.
Oh, okay, fine. So now we spoke about this idea a little bit also before when we were talking about Sitra Achra. Basically, don't think, even now, when it's basically he's saying that the one who sits and learns Torah, the Shekhinah will come reside there, because anybody who makes space for Hashem, Hashem is going to come there. In any gathering of men, we know that. Anytime there's 10 men, or anytime there's 3 people, you're supposed to bring words of Torah. Like, why are we so into that? Like, I was just learning that in Virgavos, right? Why we say Makom, if there's 3 people sitting and there's no Torah, we're going to learn Shavuos, don't worry. I just got very excited about that. There's no Torah because you're not, nothing, Hashem's like, I'm not coming here. You just, you're talking bittul Torah, right? It's not like real stuff. But Hashem wants to come when there's actually Torah. And everything that we do have to be surrendered to. We have to bring, everything that we do has to be surrendered to Him. And then Hashem will come. Now the question is, let's say you don't invite Hashem. Let's say you don't talk about Hashem. And let's say you don't talk Torah. Somehow those people still have stuff, right? It's not like Hashem like totally left. Do you ever think about that? Like, Rosh Hashanah, like, people who are not like, connecting and aligning and saying L'kavod Shabbos, and like somehow they have stuff. They do get stuff, but they get it from where? From Sitra Achra. They get it from the other side. Remember we said like you can have a relationship that's panim al panim, or you can have a relationship that's back to back. When you don't bring Hashem in, doesn't necessarily mean that Hashem is like gone, but when you receive things from Hashem, it comes from the back. It comes from the other side, and it's not necessarily a healthy version, and it's not necessarily one that you see Hashem. I always think about the Kruvim, right? When the Kruvim, when we were connected to Hashem, we were forward facing, and the opposite, when Hashem was angry at us, turned around. It was back to back. What does that mean, back to back? My kids are always like, back to back, they faced each other. I don't know what that song is, but like, you're right. You know what I'm talking about? So back to back, what's back to back? Hashem's like, you're getting it, but you don't get to see Hashem. You don't get to experience that. So we're not really letting Hashem in. It's like, Hashem, come through the back door. Hey, leave it at the back door. No, come through my front door. That's where I want you to come from. But if we don't make space for Him, if we just fill ourselves with our ego, with everything that's Nefesh HaBahamis and everything that's...
It's like when we're desperate for a Yeshua, for something, right? And we run to the
Right.
world instead of to Hashem. We may end up getting it, but we could have really just gotten it straight, and we went back.
Right, we went backwards. We went for, right, segulas, right? Segulas sometimes can be back to... I don't know that much about segulas, so maybe I shouldn't... I don't want to talk about it that much, but...
Go to everyone else for help except for going to
Right.
Hashem.
But this...
I give this
yes.
example. It's like when you make someone like food after they have a baby or doing something like that. It reminds me of that example. Someone once said like, there's making someone food, and then there's like
Uber eating pizza.
right, or making their favorite thing is like is like that they love smoothies. I don't know, and like adding on like it's just like taking that extra step.
It's
that
much
Hashem's
more
giving
face
you,
to
like-
face, right?
And there's that special, you feel even more connected to that person when you're getting that
Right.
experience, when you have that relationship with Hashem, that you're bringing things back.
100%. You know that feeling of when you're getting something face to face versus when you're getting it back to back. Like, you know it. And the more that we practice, he describes, by the way, the mechanics of like, it refers to it as like Bechina Charayim, that basically the life force goes, so this is going to be like a little bit, I always talk about that last class of Tanya because I always like blew my mind about the different worlds that are here. But the way that he describes this, Bechinas Acharayim, that you get thing, Bechina is like the way that you, it's like, how do you describe Bechina? There's no real word for describing Bechina. Bechina is a test. Bechina in like Tanya or a Chasidus is like a Bechina, right? A Bechina is a test. But a Bechina is like no, like a Bechina, it's that approach. Let's say it's the approach of a Harayim. Like, what does it mean that you get it from the back? So here's this like cool concept.
That way you said throw it over your shoulder.
Throw it over your shoulder. Yeah.
Backhanded.
Backhanded, like here, take it. But what's this idea that it comes from behind? So you, in this world, okay, Rabbi Yossi gives this like mashal, and it's one of my favorite mashals. You know those like little Russian dolls? That like within each doll is like many, many dolls, right? I don't know, we had like, you have those? And then like there's like a teeny little one, and that one doesn't open, right? So he says that basically, what does it mean when you connect to Hashem through your nefesh habahamis, right? Through your animal soul, right? And you're just like, you're getting stuff from Hashem, but you're not aligning it to Hashem. What does that mean? It means that the life force is in levels. Hashem is here. Hashem is very, very much here. But when you receive it from Acharayim, when you receive it from the back, it's enclosed and capped in so many little dolls. You can't necessarily feel or see it. So he says that basically the life force, Hashem's life force is there are 4 different worlds, okay? There's the world of Atzilus, which is the highest, right? The emanation of Hashem. Then there's the world of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya. Which world do we live in? Are we experiencing? We are experiencing this world of Asiya. This world is a very, very physical world. This is the lowest of the lowest worlds. That doesn't mean that Hashem can't fully be here. It just happens to be the lowest level of this world. Now, contained within this world, in like the Russian doll form, is all the levels of, hi, they're playing outside. Yeah, I think this is going to be the last time of like Teen Tanya. This is like a bit too much for me, sorry. So basically the life force declines as it goes into a different chain or like a cause and effect series. Basically the way that you receive it, I don't know if you remember this example we were talking about, like you could either order from like actual Prada or you could order from like the outnet and it comes like, I don't know if the outnet's like the best example, but like if you find the shoes you want like on eBay, right? On eBay it comes to you and it's like repackaged. It was never worn, but like it doesn't have the nice little like cushion inside. It doesn't have the stick inside of it. It doesn't have like any label like covering like the shoe on the bottom nicely. You still get the shoes, but it's not that same experience. And the way that it comes to you from Acharayim, the way that it comes to you, that things come to you when you're not aligned with Hashem, is just like throwing you from the back. It's like the DHL van that comes and just like throws the package to your house and like hits the door and then you're not sure if somebody stole it, right? It comes in a different way. It comes like repackaged, refurbished. You receive it, but it's a different experience. Basically, it's almost like a processed cereal that you get versus like whole grain oats. Okay, you get it, but it's in a different form. It's in a different format, as opposed to not processed food, no dyes, no processed food, right? Until like Hashem's light is very, very strong, and it can actually be experienced here. But because of all the layers, let's say like klipas and all the different worlds where it comes, Hashem's light and Hashem's goodness becomes processed. It becomes like a processed way of receiving the light. So we don't want that, right? That's not what we want. We want Hashem in its full light and Hashem in its full glory, not processed, right? No red dye. We don't want that. We want like, I don't know, that's something that just...
Like sourdough.
We want like sourdough, yeah. We don't want like processed bread that could sit on the shelf for 4 years and you're like, it's not moldy, right? We want sourdough, yes. Which reminds me that I made 4 sourdoughs this week because my daughter's going for Shabbat. She's like, give me sourdoughs. I was like, okay, calculating all this stuff, but I figured it out. I usually do like 2, sometimes 3. Okay, so we don't want to process. We want sourdough, right? And that's the form that we're now, because we're in exile, because it's like very processed, we're in that state where sometimes you perceive it. But this life force that's trying to come into this world and wants to exist here, wants to be here every second, doesn't want to be processed. So we have to quickly flip it all the time. So the fact that we have klipas here, by the way, means that there has to still be Hashem inside of it. I don't want you to think that like these things are like terrible, like lobsters are bad and whatever. They're not something for us. The fact that they are actually here and they exist means that there has to be some life force for Hashem here. Eventually, maybe when Mashiach comes, we'll fully understand it. This I did learn that.
One of Rashi's texts says that it's probably in one of the Nevi'im that says that the time Mashiach comes, Hashem will collect all those sparks. Like, you don't worry about it.
We don't have to worry about it.
Those are the sparks that Hashem's going to collect.
Right. I did recently learn that like pig is going to be kosher, like something like that. I know you don't want to hear that. I know we don't want to hear that, but the idea that if anything is alive, that means Hashem's life force is here. Obviously, right now it's not for us, but like
Hashem made it.
Hashem made it, right? So it's still here, and it still has work, and it still has a job, and it has to play in the mud, and it has to do what it has to do. There's a chiyas. Worth. It has worth? It has worth in it. Yeah, it has value.
Why Jacob was it said like even like a worm in this world, or like lightning. Apparently, lightning every 7 or 8 seconds. And like a worm like plows the soil for Hashem. There's like billions and billions and billions.
Right.
And Hashem, we think of worms as like a nuisance, but like they are plowing the soil for Hashem.
All over
Lightning brings in ions and like nitrogen.
What? This is crazy.
And without the lightning, there wouldn't be nitrogen in the, and like there's always a purpose for every single thing, whether we see it or we don't. Scientifically, that is.
But I think that like our purpose is really like what this will sum up here, that even in this physical world, even in everything that we see that maybe not is aligned with Hashem, there is a godly life force pumping through it. Our job is in this physical world, even in the lowest world, even in this world of Asiya, in the most physical of all worlds, we have to believe that all the 10 spheros of the world of Asiya are here, and all the 10 spheros of the world of Bria and Yetzira, every single thing is here. That even in the highest level, that even the world of Atzilus, which we think like, oh, maybe is in paradise, maybe is in Gan Eden, maybe is like a little bit higher. No, everything really is here, but it's deeply buried. It's like that Russian little doll. It's buried within it. But the core of reality is that in this lowest world, in this world of Asiya, that's full of bad and full of evil and scary things and encampments and Gaza and Hamas and all that stuff where evil people actually prevail. They actually have a koach. Evil people are on the news every single day. But the idea is that we have to peel away that concealment. Peel off the klipas. That's what the whole song is about. We have to peel off that concealment. We have to find the core, that reality that's inside of it, that there's a light, that there's Hashem. And then when that comes out, you have to believe that that life is invested in all the worlds. It's not just in this world that we see here. It's in all the worlds. Everything is either holy, connected to your Nefesh HaElokes, or unholy, which is connected to your Nefesh HaBahamis. And what we have to do is, in this world of concealment, we have to figure out how to take the things that are regular and how to make them holy. I'm not sure. I was on mute the entire time. That's amazing. It's fine. Nobody was actually there, so it's fine. So what we're saying is that everything we just said is either holy or not holy. I know I'm doing very well here tonight, and I'm doing great. And it's not just, and everything, this world that is concealed, that's hidden, is for us to peel off. So we have to find Hashem. So what's our avoda? What's our job? Is that peel off the klipas. Like, find the part of your animal soul that you can align with Hashem. What we're going to do next week is much more depth. We're going to talk about actual klipas noga, which is the things that we are supposed to do. But basically, the parak ends off here by saying that don't worry about the thick, irredeemable klipas. Hashem will take care of that. Hashem will collect those sparks at the end of time. What? Like Hamas. Yeah, like, I'm always like, do we go into current events? Do we not? Like, I think about it, but it really is true. Like, why not? Like, what's happening in this world? Like, either, like, I go into work every single day, and there are people who are just like the Debbie Downers, and then there are people who are like, you know, like positive thinkers, which I try to align myself with positive thinkers, but like the Debbie Downers of this world are like, oh my gosh, we're packing up, we're moving, this is how the Holocaust started, right? Because we get like all riled up. Leave that to Hashem. Leave those big, huge, scary things. Hashem is going to take care of it. Hashem will redeem them. And by the time Mashiach comes, there will be no more klipas. But right now, what our job is to do is to find the klipas nova, to find the simple things that we know that we can flip. Not kosher, relationships that we can't have, doing all those things. Leave that to Hashem. Hashem tells us exactly what to do, what not to do. Klipas nova is, for me, I can do that. I can align myself with Hashem. Your Nefesh HaBahamis is not bad. He's not the bad guy. He's your darker side. But sometimes you get much more out of your darker side than your light side. So tap into that. Really, really tap into that. So, yeah, he goes in, like, towards the end of the paragraph, he goes into all the things that we're not allowed to eat, or the fruit kalayim, which, like, I forgot about. And in chapter 7, we'll talk about more about Klipas Noga. Okay, fine. This here. Thank you for that.